Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sisters in Crime Atlanta's Off the Shelf. I am Dawn Gepfer, your host of today's program, which is brought to you by the Atlanta chapter of Sisters in Crime. If you are not familiar with Sisters in Crime, let me tell you about it just a little bit. It is an international organization that was founded to support and promote the professional development and advancement of women crime writers. It was started in 1986, so 40 years ago. And since then, membership has expanded to include all genders and any and all who are advocates of equality in mystery and crime writing publishing. Members include writers, of course, those that are published and those that are aspiring to be, editors, agents, booksellers, librarians, but most importantly, readers. And why am I saying that readers are the most important? Because where is a book without a reader? Well, it's on the shelf. And the goal of this program is to get our guest authors' books off the shelf and into the hands of our readers. So I am so excited to have our guest author with us today. We are welcoming Debbie Burke. And let me tell you a little bit about Debbie. She may look like a cookie baking grandma, but underneath that innocent appearance lurks a devious criminal mind. Her award winning Tawny Lindholm thriller series is known for its fast paced, twisty plots, snappy dialogue, and villains whom readers call deliciously evil. In addition to fiction, she is an internationally published journalist, freelance editor, and longtime contributor to the crime writing site The Kill Zone. She also teaches popular classes and workshops based on her nonfiction craft of writing book, The Villain's Journey: How to Create Villains Readers Love to Hate. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you, Dawn. Really happy to be here today. And I watched your previous interview with Joe, and the questions, the rapid fire questions that you did. I really like that format. However, I do want to ask you before we get started too far into this, do I need to have my attorney present?
That is so funny. That is so funny because Joe and I were collaborating on like, well, what do we call this? Like, we didn't want to call it like rapid fire interview. We wanted something very creative and we came up with the interrogation room.
Yes, and I love
Yeah.
that. That's why I thought of my attorney.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if we should have your attorney present. You have a right
Yeah,
to remain
I
silent.
have her on speed dial here.
So thank you for being such a good sport and joining us today. I was a little concerned, as Debbie found out yesterday, because she is a Montana-based writer. And it occurred to me, we were going back and forth, and I was deciding what time we were going to check in early this morning. And I sent her a message and I was like, I just want to make sure that I'm on the right time zone since we're in different time zones. And Debbie assured me that getting together at this hour was okay for her because she's actually on the East Coast. She is joining us from Florida today, so not from Montana.
Yeah, and it's fun because you can talk to people. I was interviewed several years ago by someone in England, and that was interesting. She made it a fairly convenient time for me. I think it was like noon or 1 o'clock, and I don't know what time it was for her, like 9 o'clock at night. But she, it's just really amazing how you can talk to these people across the globe. And yes, I have been known to get mixed up whether it's 2 hours ahead or 2 hours behind, and I show up early, or fortunately, I haven't shown up late for too many meetings, but it is confusing, but
Mhm.
it's also so cool because you get to meet people all over the world, and that's really enjoyable. So.
Yeah, so I guess if you were in Montana, it wouldn't be too bad. It
No,
would
no.
be
I'd
eight.
be up at this. I'd be up at this hour
Yeah.
anyway. I am normally up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning writing. So
Wow, that's great.
yeah.
We had an author near the end of 2025, and she joined us from California. So
Hmm.
she was, I think, 4
Hmm.
4 hours. She was 4 hours behind us,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
that was a little early for her, but she was a trooper. So, okay, so we have started a new line of questioning here on Off the Shelf, and we are calling it the interrogation room. And what we have done is we have come up with 50 questions, and they're related to our authors' personal lives, to their writing habits, their stories, etc. And what we've done is we have plucked 10 to 12 of those questions out of the 50, and we are going to put Debbie in the hot seat, and we're going to ask her to answer these questions as quickly as possible. But it's okay if if the answer lingers beyond rapid fire. So, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So, are you a plotter or a pantser?
I am a pantser unapologetically. Fortunately, we were talking earlier about my friend Leslie Budowitz, who is very much a organized. She's a former president of Sisters in Crime, and she's very organized and left brain, and I'm very intuitive right brain, and so it's just but she is, it works for her. My system works for me. And that's so I totally understand organized, methodical people and admire them, but I ain't one of them. And I like, uh, my favorite plotting tool is my subconscious. And I have developed over the years a pretty good relationship with my subconscious where it will help me. I know my characters pretty well. I know kind of a beginning point and an end point of a story, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. And I kind of let my subconscious lead me through that. And that started many years ago. A mentor of mine was Dennis Foley, and he said, your subconscious is like a little 7-year-old girl who brings you gifts. And if you accept her gifts, she will bring you more. And if you dismiss her and say, oh, geez, that's a stupid idea, she will go away and she won't help you. And so I started encouraging my little 7-year-old girl, and she brings them in not any kind of logical order, and they're totally unrelated to each other, but somehow all these little tidbits are stored down in there in the subconscious, and she may not come up with what I need at the right time, but she will eventually come up with it. And that's
Mhm.
and it's so funny because when I'm writing a thriller mystery, I'll get to a stopping point. Maybe I'll be 100 pages into it, and I'll get to a stopping point. What am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And I go back and reread what I have written. And on page 23, there is a breadcrumb that I don't even remember writing, that is a little hint from my 7-year-old girl. My
Mhm.
subconscious popped this little hint in there, and oh, that's what I can do. And so that has happened time after time after time, and it sounds very woo woo, and anybody who doesn't do this thinks I'm got a few screws to loose, which I do. But it actually has, the more you develop that and encourage that subconscious, the more it will help you come up with these, uh, get out of a corner. I find myself in a locked room, and I go for a walk, and my subconscious all of a sudden shows me the trap door, how to get out of the locked room. So it's an interesting. I love the idea, the brain science behind it, and I would love to. If I were smarter, I would have gone into like brain research and how the uh, different parts of the brain will light up in different ways in an MRI, and it shows up in the MRI when someone is being creative. It actually lights up. Mm-hmm. So that's I find that all very fascinating, and I just depend on that for my plotting. So I'm definitely a pantser with the help of a 7-year-old girl.
Well, you've intrigued me, and I'm curious because this was something that somebody mentioned to you, and you said you picked it up and you ran with it. How would those of us that are interested in doing that, is there a way that you recommend like we develop that muscle?
Yeah, I think you we all get these kind of little flashes of intuition periodically, and ideas that come to us, or something strikes you. You read a news story, or somebody tells you a story, of something that happened to them, and you just kind of keep taking that all in. And if you're organized, you would write down notes about things like that, things that strike you. But it works even when you don't, because I used to write things down more than I do now, but it still works, and I've gotten to the point where I will give my subconscious a problem, and I'm not talking about plot an entire novel. I'm talking about, okay, what should this character do at this moment in time when they have run up against this brick wall? And I go out for a walk. Mm-hmm. And physical exercise really, you get fresh oxygen. The blood is running through, circulating through your brain. Your muscles are moving. You need it as writers. We really need it because we spend too much time in front of the computer on our butts. And so it's getting out and going for a walk. And I don't necessarily think about the problem while I'm walking, but my subconscious, 99 times out of 100, will come up with a solution. And don't give it too big a problem, at one time. Give it a little problem, and it'll solve that little problem for you. And the next time, say, okay, well, now that I've done this, what can I do to make that more complicated, and or provide more suspects, or make more clues for for the mystery? And then go out for a walk, come back, and I've got some more ideas. And it's kind of like, house training your dog. You take them for a walk and they do their business, and you say, good dog, and you come back home and they're good dog. And so you kind of program your subconscious the same way you would program your dog that you're housebreaking. Take them outside, they do their business, you praise them, come back in, and life goes on. So it sounds sort of woo woo, but it is. I have found it to be very, very helpful for me, and it may not work for other people, but it does work for me. So
I don't think it's as far-fetched as you might be perceiving it to be, because a couple of things. Some of our authors that we've had on the program have mentioned the fact that their muse, like sometimes their characters tell them what to do. So
right, exactly, and that's exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, I know personally from just my experience and I admit this, I'm a reader, not a writer, so this is not writing related, but at work, sometimes something is bothering me and I say, okay, let me get away, let me step out of the office, let me go for a little walk around the park. And I mean, sometimes I don't even get 10 steps and
Yes.
it hits me and I have to turn right around and go back to the office and attack what was troubling me. So the things that you're saying actually make sense to me and
Yeah. And this
probably
is
to other people on the call.
Yeah, this is something, I discovered this, years and years ago when, in another life when I was a, business executive and I'd run into a problem and I couldn't get something to balance or I couldn't get a budget worked out or whatever. And I would go away for a little while. And I had been hitting my head against the wall. I could not figure it out. Go away for a while, come back, there's the answer. Bingo. And so I think it works in many aspects of life, whether you're trying to balance your checkbook or write a mystery novel,
Mhm,
and I have known enough other writers who experience this kind of breadcrumb phenomenon,
mhm,
that they have unknowingly planted a clue that they will later need in the story.
mhm,
So, so I think it works in in a number of aspects of life.
mhm.
It's just a matter of recognizing that that's what it is.
Yeah.
So,
So, one thing I do want to mention before we go any further, this is meant to be audience interactive. So, if anyone has a question they'd like to ask Debbie or a comment, you couple of options. You can raise your hand. You can just go ahead and speak out. You can put your question in the chat and we will keep an eye on that and we will ask on your behalf. But please feel free to engage. We don't necessarily want this to be just Debbie and I chatting with one another.
yeah, and,
Okay.
and I'm happy to, we're a small enough group that if you just want to shout out, that's fine with me.
Yes, I agree. So now let's talk about writing itself. When you're writing, do you prefer a computer or are you more a pen and paper writer?
I'm computer. My handwriting has gotten so bad because of arthritis that there is no other alternative. I have to use the computer, and I've gotten to the point. I used to like doing pen and paper, and
Mhm,
there is a certain brain hand connection that
mhm,
is very well recognized that you tap into a different part of your brain when you're writing with a pen than you do
mhm,
when you're typing. However, that
mhm,
I think you can develop enough skills and make it a habit enough that it works just fine for me on the
mhm.
computer now typing. So
Yeah. And sorry to hear about the arthritis because I know the creative outlet of pen to paper. As you can see, I have a
yes,
pen in my hand right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So, okay, what is your most productive time of day?
Early in the morning. I get up early, 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's usually my 7-year-old girl is, tugging on my, and it's something that's another thing, your subconscious works while you're asleep. You think you're sleeping, but your subconscious is very busy. And so um, normally I get wakened up by something that I have been worrying about or thinking about or trying to solve. And, or I remember, oh, I got a deadline. Ooh, and it's tomorrow. Ooh, I got to come up with something. And so, that I get up and do that.
Mhm,
And it's quiet. Nobody else is around. No phone calls. No, there aren't any interruptions. So I
mhm,
just work, work early in the morning, and it's very productive for me. And I do work throughout the day,
mhm.
with breaks in between, but generally my most productive time is early in the morning.
So that's a good segue into the next question that I had for you, which is how many hours a day on average do you spend writing?
And that's that's a tough question because a lot of times the writing is research for a particular piece of writing, or it is reading. Reading. It can be interviewing somebody else. So it's the actual writing time. I'd say probably between 4 to 6 hours a day. But it's, as I say, I'd have to take frequent breaks. I get up and go for a walk, and get up and do other things and take breaks in between, but probably 4 to 6 hours a day. But there are times if I've got a deadline coming, I will work 8 hours a day, but not in one lump. I do have to take breaks.
So,
And I do work weekends too. I work 7 days a week.
so just because now I'm curious, and I would imagine that no 2 days are alike, but what is like a typical day in your life like? Walk us through it.
Okay, get up, have coffee, go through emails, and I try and I get rid of the spam, and I address ones that need addressing now. And then I will start on whatever project I'm working on, whether it's a new book, a blog post for the Kill Zone, an edit. I also do editing, and so I may have an editing job that I need to work on, and so I do that. I take a break, and I do Zumba. I go to Zumba classes, so that is really helpful. That really gets the kinks out. So I like Zumba a lot, and so I'll go to the gym or go to a class, and then I usually have lunch with my husband, and then come back and do some more writing, and do some more research. And there are times when we shut it down and watch Wheel of Fortune, or in Jeopardy,
Yeah.
and then but other times I may be working into the night. So it just all depends. But it's I think once you develop a habit, and deadlines are the best training you can. I mean, having deadlines is so good. Have done a lot of writing for magazines in the past, and I still do some writing for magazines and online publications. And having that regular deadline, the Kill Zone, I have to come up with a new post every other Tuesday, and so that keeps you focused where you have to show up and you have to do it, and um, that's a great help in developing a good habit, good work habits.
What is your most rewarding experience during the writing process?
I'd say those creative bursts where you're all of a sudden the character gets the bit in their teeth and takes off and goes running with it.
Mhm.
And you have no idea necessarily where they're going, but you have to have faith that they know more than you do. Again, back to the subconscious,
Mhm.
uh, that knows where the story needs to go. And taken me. Uh, I have my series is two main characters, who are continuing characters, and each book is a unique, self-contained story. So they're written. Each one is a standalone, but there's a series with ongoing characters. And I didn't know until the fourth book that the male lead almost killed his father when he was 16 years old. He totally surprised me with that one.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
gee, really?
He just forgot to
But
mention it for 4
yeah,
books.
right, right. So, even when you think you know your
Mhm.
characters well, and have written a number of books with them, they can still surprise you. And
Mhm.
it's like meeting people in real life. You think you know someone very well, and then all of a sudden you find out, oh, yeah, I was a spook for the CIA back in 1972. Really? You never told me that. And so it's similar to getting to know people in real life, as they will continue to surprise you. So, And
What
I
is
don't know
the
what, I've lost track of even what the question was.
It was the most rewarding experience. I think you
Okay.
answered it very, very
Okay.
well.
Yeah. Thank you.
What is the most helpful criticism you've received?
That I think this is something that all writers struggle with because we see the story so clearly in our minds and we assume the reader sees it
Mm,
too. And the reader only sees what's on the page. And so that's where I get most of my like critique group gives me feedback says, hey, where are we? I don't know where you're having this very interesting conversation, but I have no idea where we are. And so that kind of feedback where they kind of remind me that I haven't put something on the page that's very important.
mhm,
And I think this is something most writers struggle with is trying to realize that what we are thinking didn't necessarily make it through our fingertips
mhm.
onto the computer screen. And that's where critique groups and beta
Okay.
readers are very, very helpful. You need to have an objective outsider's eyes on your work to tell
Mhm.
you where the missing parts are. So,
That's a very helpful tip. Um, so writing retreats or conferences that you have attended that you would recommend?
yeah, I love writing conferences. In past years, my husband would give me for my birthday and Christmas presents each year would give me a conference. And so I attended a lot of conferences back in the 90s and early 2000s. And that was so fun and really great to meet other writers. And I've developed connections with people that I met at a conference, haven't seen for 25 years, but we are still in touch and still
Mhm.
good friends. And one of those places that I really enjoyed was Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers. Also enjoyed Pikes Peak Writers Conference, which is another good one. They have a great contest, and I my book that was the first published book in my series won the mystery award at that conference, and so that was where I went to that conference
Mhm.
because I had won that and that kind of kicked me off into
Mhm.
getting published, and so I have a very soft spot in my heart for that one. My local writing group is called the Authors of the Flathead, and we put on an annual conference, and that is where I met Mel, and I see Paula has checked in over here too, and she's another Montana writer, and so that has been a really fun conference. I've met a lot of people through there, include I used to do the speaker wrangling. I would call up agents and editors and publishers and so on and say, hey, would you like to come to Montana and teach at a writing conference? And that's not really a tough sell. People say, well, sure. And so I developed a lot of contacts with editors and agents and publishers and people that are ancillary, one of our recent guests is Keir Graff, who was the editor of Library Journal for many years. And, he came and talked to us. So it's really cool to be able to meet people in person, and so those are my favorite. I have to mention Free Expressions because that
Mhm.
is one that where I met Christopher Vogler, who
Mhm.
wrote the hero or the writer's journey,
Mhm.
and he is the one who gave me a great deal of help with my nonfiction book, The Villain's Journey, and so that's I can't pass by without mentioning that conference.
Mhm.
Meeting him was a real pivotal moment in my career. So
Do you still how many do you attend a year, do you think?
I attend at least one a year. Travel is expensive and
Mhm.
hotels are expensive. And fortunately, though, there are a lot of Zoom options now
Mhm.
where you can, log into a conference or a webinar and attend. You don't get the same personal interaction. Uh, and the chance meetings in the sitting next to somebody at lunch, these personal opportunities aren't there, but you can still gain a lot of good information. So I think whenever you have an opportunity, an educational opportunity, I think writers should absolutely take advantage of it. And if I win the Powerball and I can afford a private jet, I'll attend a lot more conferences. So,
But to your point, this virtual attendance has really opened up doors for so
yes,
many people, speakers as
yes,
well as attendees.
absolutely.
And the authors of the Flathead sounds really interesting. How long has that been in existence?
Actually, I was one of the founding members. We started, I think, about 1988, and our first conference was in a church basement with brown bag lunches, and I think we charged $25 a person. It was one day, and somebody knew uh, a couple of photojournalists, professional journalists from Seattle who came over, and we paid for their gas, and that was it. And it was so much fun, and we all got so much inspiration out of it that we said, "Hey, let's do this again." Well, we have now had about, I think it's this last year or maybe this coming year's 35th conference, and so
Amazing.
it grew to a much bigger conference where we had New York agents and
Mhm.
New York editors and some very high end big name people
Mhm.
that so we're still small enough. It's 100 people, and we purposely keep it to 100 people because we don't want to, we want to keep the intimate thing where you can sit
Mhm.
down next to the editor of Harper Harper, or
Mhm.
next to the contributor for Publishers Weekly. These people where you can sit down
Mhm.
next to them at lunch and talk to them, and so that's it's been a great experience doing that. Part of that is going in as trying to go in as an organizer and operator of the conference, not just going in as a writer, you know,
Mhm.
trying to learn from the conference.
Mhm.
So it's been a real good experience doing that.
Is it at what time of year do you?
It's usually in the fall. I believe this year it's going to be the last weekend in September. I'm not
Mhm.
positive, but authorsoftheflathead.org. You can go
Mhm.
on the website and find out. It's usually either late September, early October, and it's a
Mhm.
weekend. And we just have a great time.
I would imagine that you're contemplating the weather.
And that is
Yeah.
actually the perfect time in Montana. The colors are beautiful. A
Mhm.
lot of times people will come from out of town, and they come from all over the country. We've had a
Mhm.
come from Canada. We had somebody one time come from Japan, which I couldn't believe
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so they come from all over the country, and very often they will stay for a few days in addition
Mhm.
to the conference to do some sightseeing. And
Mhm.
who wouldn't, so it's
Exactly.
a beautiful beautiful venue, and it's
Mhm.
not, as I say, it's not a hard sell to convince people to come to Montana in the fall with beautiful colors. So, and by
Yeah,
the
for
way, this
sure.
backdrop is the Hungry Horse Dam, which is about 30 miles from my home in Montana, and this is these mountain sides are just bright yellow in the fall,
Mhm.
and this is also the setting for the first of my books that was published. And I'll let your imagination imagine what I did with the dam in that one.
And you have intrigued us. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't be so um, don't beat yourself up so badly when something doesn't work out. Don't feel like this is the last chance you'll ever get, and if you blow this one, you're dead. No, it. You know, I had some agent um, interviews at conferences. By the way, that's another really cool thing about conferences is some of them will give you an opportunity to meet face to face with an editor or an agent for 10 minutes or whatever, and they can read your excerpt, and you get great feedback. Well, I've had a number of those over the years, and um, the times that I have blown them, I was sure, okay, this is it. I blew this one. She's going to put my name on the blacklist and immediately circulate it to every agent who's ever been, saying, do not ever talk to Debbie Burke. She's an idiot. Yes. But no, that doesn't happen. It doesn't, you think it's the end of the world because you didn't impress this agent. Well, no, it really isn't the end of the world. And in 5 years, none of it matters. And I can't even remember the names of the agents who said, don't quit your day job. Just, why don't you go back to doing something productive? So you think everything is a catastrophe when it really isn't. And it's actually a learning experience. And some of those agents gave me great feedback that changed my direction and helped me get better and get to a better place in my career. So that would be it. Don't be, just move on. If you fail, if something goes wrong, just move on. Start another book, write another article, take a different class, just do something. Don't let that stop you.
Right. Don't lose faith in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So how many unpublished and half-written books do you have?
Quite a few. I think I'm what they call a slow learner. It took me a long time to get some things through my head. I have a dozen unpublished ones, mysteries, that actually had gotten a lot of good feedback, and I got some rave rejections from publishers. I did have a couple of agents in the course of my 30 almost 40 years of doing this, and they all these books came close, but they couldn't quite get over the hump. And so, but none of them was wasted. I learned something from every one of them. And so even if people that write their first novel and they're sure it's going to be a huge bestseller, well, no, it won't. And it won't even get published. And it probably will wind up in the same hard drive on, let's see, I think it was Word or Windows 3.1. I mean, we're going back in time. So it'll wind up in a computer that you can't even access anymore, and it doesn't matter. You learned from it. It's practice, practice, practice.
And just curious, do you ever think about revisiting some of those early stories and seeing if you can
I
polish
have
them?
I have a couple of people who keep bugging me to revisit some, but at this point, I'm not. I've got too many other things going, and I've got new ideas coming in. There's just too much new to write about to want to go back, and because they would have to be started virtually from scratch, and so might as well write something new.
Well, I think this is a good time to talk about what did work for you and that is your Tawny Lindholm thriller series. And there are, if I'm
Nine
understanding
books.
correctly,
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah, nine
nine.
books.
And
Mhm.
so you've also told us that you've been actually doing this and you've been involved in like the Authors of Flathead for 35 years. So you've been working as an author for a really long time.
Mhm.
So when did Tawny appear and how did you even meet her?
Well, I think uh, well, the idea for the story was pretty much ever since I've lived in Montana and saw Hungry Horse Dam, I wanted to do something with it. I had to pitch somebody off it sooner or later, and I finally did in my book, my first book, which was Instrument of the Devil, and that was a convergence of several things that at the time it's about a terrorist attack on the power grid. And at the time, I was doing a lot of research about the
Mhm.
vulnerability of the power grid. Ted Koppel had come out with a book called, I think it was Lights Out, about how easily you could pretty much destroy the power grid and disable the country and the world if you wanted to with some fairly easy tools like a smartphone at that point. Now, fortunately, they have tightened security up considerably since then, but at the time, the
Mhm.
smartphone could set off a chain reaction that would destroy the electrical grid of a certain area.
Mhm.
And at that same time, I got my first smartphone, and it totally bamboozled me. I did not know what to do. I could not make it work. It would go black screen on me. It would make strange noises. I didn't know why. And I was so frustrated with it. And I kept going back to the shop, and the guy would kind of give me the, eye rolling, here, little old lady, take your phone. I fixed it. Now don't touch anything. Well, the darn phone kept misleading me. And so I thought, what if I take this experience, my personal experience of being befuddled by a smartphone, and hook it up with a terrorist who takes over the smartphone of an innocent woman who doesn't
Oh.
know what she's doing, and
Mhm.
he uses her as his scapegoat for his attack. And that was the concept. And so it was partly built on my personal experience with this, with the smartphone. And I'm living small town Montana. I made her
Mhm.
a recent widow at age 50 who was broke and dyslexic and needing a job and
Mhm.
in dire straits. And here along comes this very dashing psychologist who starts helping her with her smartphone. And of course, he will turn out to be the terrorist who's been stalking her
Mhm.
for a period of time. And so that uh, it was a little bit based on, my personal experience, but I haven't actually ever had an affair with a terrorist. Darn it, who happened to look like Omar Sharif,
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so it's just, again, this is the character was kind of built a little bit on myself, but not much,
Mhm.
and so I put her in a really dire situation. And this book, what really I think made the difference was this was the first book I had written not solely from one point of view, the protagonist's point of view. Before, I'd always done first person and or third person limited, where I was strictly in the heroine or hero's point of view. This time, I went into the villain's head for the first time. And all of a sudden, this world opened up of all the things I could figure out and do to cause mayhem and madness.
Mhm.
And it was like, oh, this is really cool, because I had to understand the bad guy.
Mhm.
And built a character around him who was, again, totally fictionalized, but also, was seeing it from the other character's point of view. She's trying to figure out why is her life going sideways, and he's figuring out, okay, how can I keep her life going sideways so I can disable Hungry Horse Dam. And so that was the how things went with that particular book. And I think going into the villain's point of view made the difference. And that was the book that won at the Pikes Peak Writers Conference and led to the first my first published novel. And so it just, I think, going at it from instead of a whodunit point of view to is he going to get away with it thriller point of view. Whodunit is mystery. That's the whole thing. You want to find out who the killer was, who the jewel thief was, whatever. But with a thriller or suspense, you very often know who the bad guy is. And the question becomes, is he going to get away with it? Or how is he going to get away with it? And so that was a different mindset. And that seemed to be the right genre for me, much more so than a whodunit mystery. And so that was, once I had that realization, then my books started flowing much more easily and came out.
So when did you write that book?
It was published in 2017, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 2017.
Now, I definitely want to go back and talk about Tawny a little bit more, but you really touched on something. It was this book where you paid attention to your villain.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's fast forward to 2025 when you have actually written a how did we phrase it? A art of craft?
Yeah, it's a writing craft book.
Yeah.
It's called The Villain's Journey: How to Create Villains Readers Love to Hate. And the mind shift for me was that, I'd always focused on the hero before. And I hadn't really paid any attention to the villain. And I'd been so focused on how the hero was going to be interesting and get into these situations and how their mind worked and how they would solve the crime. I'd totally forgotten about the villain. I wasn't paying attention. And that was my epiphany that, okay, the villain is actually the person driving the story. That's the person who lights the fuse on the bomb that will go off. That's the person that drops the rock in the still pond and starts the ripples going out. And so the villain is the driver. The villain acts, the hero reacts. And if there weren't crimes, Philip Marlowe could just be drinking all day long, and Sherlock Holmes could be playing his violin. It just, and Miss Marple would have to take up knitting. So the villain is actually, to me, the more important character as far as moving the story. And so once I started looking at that, I thought there hasn't really been a whole lot written about villains and how to write villains. And I started looking at, on Amazon at comparables. There weren't very many books or articles. So, maybe I could write that book. And so I started putting it together, and I asked every writer I knew, I asked readers, I asked everybody I knew, who's your favorite villain and why? And started gathering information, reading books that I never would have read otherwise, doing the research, and put this book together called The Villain's Journey: How to Create Villains Readers Love to Hate. And it's kind of the reverse of the hero's journey. It's the flip side of the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell had uh,
Mhm.
started many years ago, and Christopher Vogler adapted the hero's journey for writers and wrote the writer's journey.
Mhm.
And I had the great good fortune of meeting Chris at the uh, Free Expressions Writing Conference. And
Mhm.
he read the book and gave me a wonderful endorsement. And that has led to some great doors opening for me. So I think, this idea that the villain is the driver rather than the hero
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
was a great epiphany eye opener for me.
Right.
And I think it's when I mention it to other people, they say, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that's how the villain's journey came to be. So
So going back to Tawny, you did the book number one. You had that epiphany, and you worked it into your story, and it was a success. I am guessing that has been a consistent driver through the next eight books. Is a focus. There is focus on the villain as well as on the main
yes,
characters.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. And then there at the about the last quarter to third of Instrument of the Devil, the first book, a new character elbowed his way into the story and would not leave, and he is now the male lead. That spoiler alert,
Yeah.
they will wind up eventually together. So,
Hmm.
but anyway, uh, that so now I have her point of view, his point of view, the
Okay.
villain's point of view, and sometimes I have several villains, and I
Hmm.
have like the lead villain and then henchmen, and so it's the more insights you can get into the different layers of what is going on with this plot and how many different people are moving levers behind the scene. I think that that makes it very mentally challenging, but also makes for
Hmm.
great opportunity to make very twisty, surprising plots,
Hmm.
multi layered plots. So
Well, obviously successful. Like we said, you're nine books in, and now you have actually written a book and developed like a program on to help writers zoom in on this. So congratulations on all of that. I know this is going to be hard to believe. I am surprised by it, but we are getting close to our hour, and I feel like I could talk to you for several more hours, and we would not run
thank,
out of
thank
things
you.
to say. So we have a program as part of Sisters in Crime, and it is called Murder by the Book. And what we do, it's a gathering of readers once a month. It's the first Saturday of the month. It's on Zoom. It's open to the public. Everybody can come. We would love for you to join us. And we always want to know, the question is, what have you been reading? And our to be read piles just grow and grow and grow. So I like to ask our guest authors to also share something with us that they've read recently and have enjoyed and would recommend. So can you do
And
that for us?
yeah, I have a humdinger. It's called My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyenkan Braithwaite. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but she's a Nigerian author, and the title tells it all. The main character has this uh, sister who is a serial killer, and it sounds just horrible, but it's hysterical. She is so funny. And how can you make a serial killer and this poor sister who's trying to clean up after her family loyalty? She's trying to save her sister, and it's funny. It's just so funny. And so anyway, I think it's a terrific book. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed it.
Well,
I
thank
think
you
it
for.
came out in 2018 or so. It's not real
Oh, okay.
brand new, but it's been around.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and we have one of our audience members, Sharon, had
yeah,
she read it. She said it was fun, and I know
yeah,
Angela mentioned that she had also read it when we were
yeah.
chatting before. So next question is, and I believe you have some slides you want to share with us, is like what's next? What can we? We've got 9 books. Tawny Lynn, am I pronouncing her last name
Yeah,
Lindholm?
Toddy Lindholm
Okay,
thriller series. Yeah.
yeah,
And can I share screen at this point? Can I bring up
sure.
my slides?
I'm going to say yes, but really, that's Angela.
We hope it'll work. Okay, where did it go? It was here a minute
Yeah.
ago.
Down at I have a ribbon down at the bottom and it says share with an arrow going.
Yeah, I'm looking on my desktop to
Mhm.
where my slides went to, and I was afraid
Mm.
this might happen, unfortunately, because I am not a good techie person. Let's see, that's not it. Where?
Yeah, I think you're good on our end.
Well, it would be good if I could find my slideshow. That's not
Yeah,
it.
that would be good.
Well, Sue, where are you? I saw you a little while ago on here. My friend Sue
Mhm.
Purvis is the one who is my
Oh.
guru, my tech guru, and I wish she were here right now.
Mhm.
But it's desktop. I wanted to go to desktop, and
Try clicking share and see if you can see it. Like sometimes when I do that, they'll
click
like
share
whatever
again. You
screens I
mean?
have open
Okay,
will and then I'll be able to find what I'm looking for that way.
okay. There it is. Thank you.
You are
Okay,
welcome. And
there
I'm
it
not a
is.
techie person either. That's
Hey,
why Angela is here.
you're
And
more
Linda.
techie than I am. You're more techie than I am.
I
So,
couldn't do it without those two.
yeah, well, we love our techies. You know, they are our best friends. So anyway, this is my website, and I'm working on the 10th book in the thriller series. I also do freelance editing, and I'm teaching classes. In the writer's or the villain's journey. And I have a deal where I have a friend who makes custom wood pens out of historic legacy lumber, he calls it. He salvages wood from old buildings, historic buildings that are being renovated or torn down, and he makes pens from them.
Oh.
And they're absolutely beautiful. And so I do a drawing for people who sign up for my newsletter. I do a drawing periodically where you can win one of these pens. And there is a pen that he's designed them for my books. And at this point, I'll flop over to this one. He designed a book for Deep Fake Double Down, which was the one about deep fakes. And there's a Montana Yogo sapphire mine in there. So he designed a deep fake sapphire pen. And then my uh, most recent one is Fruit of the Poisonous Tree, which is set in a cherry orchard in Flathead Lake. And he did the Flathead cherry pen, which is gorgeous. And then he's also done designed a pen for the villain's journey.
Oh.
And so I have 3 choices that people have a chance for if they sign up for my newsletter, which I'll go back to that screen. And you can either go to my website and there's a sign up there, or email me.
Mhm.
And I will include you in the drawing. And uh, what's next is I am teaching some classes. I've got a class coming up on Thursday for Free Expressions. It's a webinar um, about the villain's journey. I think this is the one that's called it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your villain is? And then there's another presentation that I'm going to be doing, a workshop I'm going to be doing for the community college in Kalispell that's going to be a month long about the villain's journey. And, I just keep grabbing opportunities as they come up, and it's been a lot of fun because wasn't I didn't go into this thinking, gee, I'm going to wind up teaching college someday. I went into this because, gee, I really like to read mysteries and write them, and it's really fun. And you just never know the strange twists and turns that your life is going to take and the situations you're going to wind up in. And if you if you're open to the opportunity and grab it, you just don't know what wonderful places you may wind up. So.
Very, very good advice. I have certainly enjoyed this. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone in the audience's time. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, before we sign off, does anybody have any questions for Debbie or even for Sisters in Crime Atlanta? We're happy to chat with you.
Gee, I guess I answered all the questions of the universe, right? No, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone who listened, and zoomed in. It's just a pleasure to see faces I do know and recognize, and people that I haven't met before. And it's just, really, I really enjoy connecting with other writers and readers. And so thank you for this chance.
And again, thank you for joining us. Debbie Malone has a question. I don't know the answer to this. Did Sisters in Crime sponsor Murder Goes South? If Charlie were on here with us, he would know the answer to that. But unfortunately, he is not with us, and I don't think any of the other chapter members have been.
Was this a few years ago?
Karen,
we might have had we did some like we had Lunch Can Be Murder, and we might have had a we might have had like a one-day conference or something called Murder Goes South. It was it years ago, Debbie? Was it long?
Yeah, it was. And I've got a poster up here, and I'm trying to look. It says,
was it at the Smyrna Library?
Yes.
Yeah, I totally missed that.
Or the community center next to, didn't we have it at the community center next door to the library?
Well, see, I'm not from the area, but I would go, and it was so much fun. And that's where I met people like Patricia Sprinkle and
that was back in her day when she was here. Yeah, she moved to Oregon.
And it was so much fun.
Yeah,
sounds like fun.
Yeah, we were involved in that. I think we were one of the sponsors for it. But that was a fun little conference.
Maybe we should think about it again. We do have a annual writers workshop that we do. Sisters in Crime Atlanta does. It's on the small scale now, but I have to say, Debbie, you have inspired us or inspired me when you were talking about Authors of the Flathead. How it can actually grow and become like a really, something really significant. And so that was very encouraging.
And it really is, I think a lot of people really do miss the conference experience. And if you can offer it to them, it's just, writers are hungry. We're hungry to meet other writers and connect, and it's our tribe. It's like we're having a great big family reunion where we all have the same interest, and it's just I am a big proponent of conferences
Debbie,
as great.
If you don't mind, something you said that I appreciated was the fact of how much conferences cost now.
Yeah,
they're exorbitant.
Yeah.
And, I think that Murder Goes South was like a half a day conference and had big names from back then. And I don't even remember if we had to pay anything. And if we did, it was just a very minimal amount to go.
Yeah,
and you could sell your books.
Yeah, it was a small, I think it was a small registration fee, and they had a bookstore. I think they had lunch or something like that.
Mhm.
And but it wasn't very, and it was one day, so and probably most of the people that came were local, so they could drive in. They didn't have to
Yeah,
get
and there's a lot of
hotels.
people starting out that just
Yeah.
can't, do those big conferences and don't need them right when they're
Right.
starting out or whatever.
Debbie, that's a great point. You don't need to go to, VoucherCon with 1,000 people there if you're a new writer starting out. It's better to connect with other local writers, and that's where I was going to a lot of small local conferences and workshops that were in my driving area, and then we started doing our own, and so looking for the right conference at the right point in your career is important.
Yeah, Tanisha said she just wrote an article about that, making sure that you're going to, it's worth what you're paying for it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because
Return on
sometimes,
investment.
yeah, I would love to go to International Thriller Writers Conference in New York City. Now, let's see, how much could that turn out to be? Probably
Yeah, I think that's
easily
expensive.
$3,000. And that's between hotel and meals and let alone the conference fee. That's the travel. It's that could turn into some serious change.
Yeah,
So
and all the conferences that I've been to over the years, I mean, I've gotten just as good material from conferences that didn't cost as much than the ones that have cost. And you might have more choices and you
right.
might have bigger names,
Mhm.
but your content, it can help.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
think I
absolutely.
was at Murder in the Magic City with you years ago.
Oh, yeah, because you
Yeah.
look familiar.
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
yes.
a fun one. And that one wasn't very expensive. I
No, and
think
I was going to go this year, and I haven't been in
they're
years since
they're
I
not
went.
having it.
I know, but I'm praying that she's going to have it next year.
Yeah, maybe they were taking a break because she's had it every year for a long
Many,
time.
many, many,
It was
many years,
21
but
years last year.
it
Wow.
was
Yeah.
so much fun. I was on the panel with what's his name, Craig Johnson.
Oh
Oh,
Craig,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you were there.
I got
That
to
was the
sit
first year I
by
was there.
That's cool. That's cool.
What
He
I
was
liked
he was
about
nice though.
that one is I felt like it was also reader focused.
Yes.
It was about meeting the authors and getting the books, and so I really enjoyed that.
And that was small too. That was like 100 people
Right,
was
Mhm.
that
right.
Yeah.
Well, Sharon, thank you for jumping in.
Well, again, thank you everyone for attending. We do these the fourth Saturday of every month. And next month, our off the shelf author is Christina Estes, and she is a news reporter who has written a couple of mysteries. And so we'll be chatting with her on the 28th of March, I believe. Is it the 28th? Is today the 28th? Then it'll be the 28th. Yes, the 28th of March. So I hope you guys will consider joining us again. And check out our website, sistersincrimeatlanta.com, and also our Facebook page to keep up with what we have going on. And I actually have one last question for Debbie Burke.
Sure.
Does your 7-year-old
My little 7-year-old girl, subconscious.
protege. Does she have a name?
No, no.
Imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no. I was a kid who had imaginary friends that I played with. So she's another one of those. But no, I didn't ever name her. So.
Well, all right. Well, again, thank you, everyone. Go enjoy your Saturday. Appreciate your time. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you all again. And Debbie Burke and Debbie Malone, love to meet you guys in person sometime.
Yes,
Mel,
yes,
thank you so much for joining us. Paula
yes.
as well. Lawrence, and Susan was here, but I think she had to pop off. So
Yeah, she pops in and out.
Yeah.
But she's my tech guru because she does does this all the time, and she's a terrific writer also. So
Yeah. You brought a good crowd. Thank you.
well, thank you so much for this opportunity, and look forward to. I know a couple of you I'm going to see in person again, and I look forward to maybe meeting the rest of you in person at a future time.